Hello, welcome to a new video. Today we're going to find out how to create some camera movements without even moving the camera. Camera on tripod, we're going to do some video editing tricks. Stay tuned, I'll see you after the intro. We're going to recreate a couple of shots called in cinema reveal shot tracking or dolly shots. And we're going to produce a parallax effect. The parallax effect comes in when you have something in the foreground and something in the background, and you're going to change the perspective as the camera moves forward or to the side. So we're going to reproduce that effect today, but with the camera on the tripod, steady on the tripod. So if you're shooting on your own, you want to film yourself, this is a nice trick to give some movement and dynamism to your clip. If you're a self-shooter or a vlogger that travels solo, then this can be very helpful because usually you might end up with just steady and still shots. They're still great, don't get me wrong, but what if you could add some movements to your camera even when you are on your own? Today we're going to recreate a forward dolly shot and also a reveal shot to the side. You could actually achieve these shots in different ways. First of all, if you had a motorized slider, and I actually did a review on a motorized slider, and you can check it right here and understand how that works. So that can work if you're on your own as well, but it's quite expensive. The other way is to have a second cameraman, and of course you can recreate this movement with the gimbal or with a slider. Let's not waste any extra time, let's get creative. I'm gonna grab my bag and find the right spot for this first shot. Well, I guess this is a good spot for me, and I'm gonna tell you why I chose this spot in a second. But first of all, I want to talk about the camera settings and the camera gear I'm using to achieve the shots we're talking about. Now, you can achieve these shots and this effect with any camera device you have, any recording device. If you have an action camera like the GoPro I'm using there, or a smartphone, you can still achieve the same results. So don't get frustrated and don't limit your creativity on the camera gear. I'm using the Blackmagic because it's the best camera I own. So of course I want the best quality out of my videos, but don't worry if you don't have anything similar, just use what you've got. The lens I'm using is 16 to 35 millimeters, and I'm actually using a focal length at 16 millimeters, so as wide as I can to grab as much as I can in my field of view. Then in the next shot we're gonna change the focal length as well to give a different perspective. In terms of camera settings, now I'm filming at 60 frames per second to add some slow motion in post-production if I wanted to and give a more cinematic effect, but again it's not needed, it's just something I want to do. I'm filming in 4K resolution, and I recommend to film in 4K resolution if your device allows you to do so, just to have a better quality first of all, but also to have a bigger image, a bigger frame we can work on, and also that we can crop if we have to crop it. Something we need to take care of is the focus. So that's something quite hard actually when you're on your own, to focus on yourself if you're filming and moving. So you want to focus beforehand. So you want to find a spot in the environment at the same distance from the camera where you will be. So you make sure to focus on a tree, for example, in my case, and I will make sure to move next to that tree to keep myself in focus as well. And that's just another simple trick. Also turn the focus peaking on the camera so I can actually see through these red lines what's in focus for a clearer view. Let's talk about the aperture of the lens. I'm filming at f9.1, so a quite close aperture, just to allow less light to go through the sensor and also not to give me the shallow depth of field. So once again, that's an easier way to keep myself in focus instead of using a very shallow depth of field like filming at f1.8 for example, which would be very tricky to keep myself in focus. I also have an external monitor, a Shinobi by Atomos, and that's very handy. If you are on your own, you can just flip the screen and actually see from the other side what you're doing and if you are in frame. Again, if you don't own one, don't worry, you can take a couple of shots and set the camera first and then take the actual shot later on. Also because the movement we want to achieve is made of two different shots merged together in post-production, I totally recommend to have a tripod and set the camera on the tripod to keep the same height and distance from the ground to the camera for both shots, of course. Now let's talk about the location and why I chose this specific spot. This spot offers me a lot of trees, a nice environment, but what we talked about in terms of parallax effect, the parallax effect is reproduced when we have something in the foreground and something in the background. In this case, I have this nice couple of trees right in front of the lens, and that's gonna give me the change of perspective during my fake movement, basically. The tip I can give you is to grab a couple of elements of objects to place in front of your camera to cover a big part of your frame to the sides of your frame. And the second tip and the second thing I want to take very care of is to grab an element, an object, which is quite linear, so it's not very complicated to mask in post-production. You will understand this when we do the editing process. But yeah, just grab something which is not very decorated or with weird shapes, which will be harder and more time consuming for you to actually mask in post-production. So the trees here are quite linear. I think they would be quite easy to mask out, so this is a good spot. And what you want to do right now is to take maybe 15 seconds of this clip without anything moving or happening. So what I'm going to do is just press rec and let the camera run. And this is the first shot we just took. Now the second shot is where we're actually putting ourselves in the frame and we are moving in the image. In my case, I'm just focusing on those trees, that line of trees right there. So I'm going to walk right there in this shot now. And for this shot, we want to move the camera forward just beyond the two elements that were covering our foreground. And I'm gonna show you right now what to do. I'm actually moving my GoPro so you will see what's going on. And here we go. So, bear with me. So the camera right now is behind the trees. As you can see, what we're gonna do is to move it right here. This is the shot we have right now. You can see the two trees here. I'm sorry about the monitor, it's not clear. So what we're gonna do is to keep the same focal length, same height of the tripod, and just move us forward a tiny bit to get rid of our trees. As you can see, there's nothing here anymore. And now we can get the second shot. Also bear in mind you can create this effect indoors as well. That's even easier. So the light would be the same. The settings are not gonna change very much because the trees here are moving if there's a bit of wind and stuff like that. So definitely indoors is a more controlled environment, so it would be easier for you also in post-production. But you can do it anywhere, literally anywhere. And now we're gonna take the second shot without anything in the foreground, but with me moving. Okay, so here I am. I'm now gonna walk here next to the trees I mentioned before. So this is my line of walk. You can do a bit of acting, and you know, like you're getting lost somewhere. And I'm gonna walk in the shot right now. So I should now be out of the shot. I'm walking in. I'm feeling lost. And you just walk out. Now we're going to take a second shot, so we're going to find a different location just to, you know, give it a change. And yeah, let's look for another tree. We mentioned this was a forward dolly shot. Now we're going to do a tracking shot, a reveal shot to the side. What I want now is probably a bigger tree to cover maybe a third of my frame here. So this is a quite big tree. Let me show you. And the light is from the side, so it's perfect. And I think I'm gonna place the camera right here. So this is the tree I'm talking about. Really nice. Also, there's a bit of mist in the background, so it's gonna be a great shot. And we're gonna talk through the settings. I'm gonna change the focal length of the lens just to create something different from the previous shot. I have this big tree, which is covering a third of my lens, as you can see through the camera right now. Also, I changed the focal length and I'm now at 35 millimeters, so fully extended, because I want to change the depth of field, and also because I want to focus more on my face and my expression. We're gonna take a 15 seconds of this shot and then we're gonna move the camera forward once again. This is just for the tree in the foreground. Now we're gonna move the camera forward until the tree disappears from our frame, from our lens. This is the clean shot, and I'm gonna put myself here somewhere. Ha! Here I am. So let's go, let's walk in shot. This is the second part of our second shot, which is the reveal shot to the side. So don't forget, the first shot of the scene will be with something, with an object, an element, or a couple of elements, how many you want in the foreground. And then the second shot of the same scene will be a clean shot with just you in the frame, basically. And we're gonna merge the two together in post-production. Here we are in studio, we do some video editing magic. And first of all, we're gonna create a new sequence inside Premiere Pro. That's the software I'm using to edit this vlog. So let's go here in my edits. I'm gonna create a new sequence, Command N, and I'm gonna create a 24 frames per second sequence, full HD. And we're gonna call it Parallax Effect. I've already selected my clips needed for this tutorial, and we're gonna work on the first shot together. So double click on the first clip, and this is the first clip I'm gonna use for the tutorial, the clip where we filmed the two trees. Remember, the very first clip. So what I'm gonna do, I double click on it, opened it in the source panel, and I'm gonna drag the video in the sequence. There you go. I'm gonna keep my existing settings. If you remember, we filmed in 4K, which gave us a better resolution. And as you can see now, the image is much bigger than the full HD resolution. So what we're gonna do first is to reduce the size of the resolution. We go to Effect Controls and reduce the scale to 50% to match our settings, our sequence settings. Now in the program panel, right there, we're going to take the first tree on the left. Of course, you can do it with your image. And in the opacity here in the Effect Controls panel, you wanna select the pen tool. This is gonna create a mask, an opacity mask. And now you just press on the program panel to start creating a mask. And precisely, you want to mask out the tree. Now, for the purpose of the tutorial, I'm not doing a great job, but you can. So be more precise than I am. I'm just doing a rough mask, and that's what I mentioned during the filming, to grab possibly a linear object in front of the lens, not too difficult to mask out, because this is gonna help out right now. So I'm gonna mask it out, and I'm gonna speed up the process. Try to be as organic as the actual object, so don't make two straight lines in this case if it's a tree, for example, but if it's a wall, yeah, definitely you can. So, and now we're gonna close the path. There you go, and move the last point up here, so it will go out of the frame. There it is. Now what we're gonna do is to invert the mask. So we just go here to the Effect Controls panel, in opacity, mask 1, invert it. So now we can actually see the image again, and we're going to create a second mask to mask the second tree. I'm going to take the pen tool once again, and automatically I will create a new mask, as you can see here. And I'm doing exactly the same, so I'm masking out the tree and I'm speeding up the process to make it quicker. So there you go. What we have to do now is to go back to the Effect Controls under Mask 1, re-press on the inverted option, and now we will see both the trees masked out. So this is just the trees actually, and what we can do is to bring this layer in the sequence, in the timeline, on the second track. So let's take it to V2. That's something we could have done before. As you can see here in the Effect Controls panel under the masks, we have already a mask feather of 10, amount of 10. So that's basically a fade on your mask. So it will blend better with the background. So according to your purpose, you can add a feather or not. But in my case, I think it works out to blend better with the environment. What we want to do now is to go back to the project panel and take the second clip. So I double click on it and I just take the video of this clip and put it underneath my trees at the beginning of the timeline. And now we see straight away what's happening. So first of all, we want to reduce the scale of the second clip. So we go to the Effect Controls panel and go to 50% here in the scale. And as you can see, no one would probably notice that this image is made of two different images, because now these two trees are actually part of another image. And if I blind the track off on the timeline, that's it. So it's like Photoshop basically. And now we can do whatever we want with these trees. And what I want to do first is to increase the size of them a little bit. So I go back to the scale, go to 60%. There you go. And also I'm going to move them to the left a little bit, like so. Now we're starting with the animation of the shot. And what I want to do here in scale, so if we actually did a dolly shot, a forward dolly shot where we were filming, the scale of the trees will change because they will get bigger, but also they will get further away from each other. And that's what we want to reproduce. So first of all, let's add the keyframe right there, here in the scale. And then I'm following the animation on the timeline until my character disappears there. And here I'm going to add another keyframe in the scale, and make sure you are on the same track as before. I'm going at the end of the track, so where my character finishes the action, which is more or less here on my timeline. And I'm going to add another keyframe and increase the size of the scale to maybe 68 and see how it goes. And now I'm going to play and check it out. And we created the movement already. And I don't think we need to add anything else actually. We also want to give a gentle scale to the characters, so to the environment, because anyway that would happen in a real live shoot. So we're going to go in the clip in the first track, which is the background, and we're going to increase the scale of it as well. So I'm going to create a keyframe in the scale, and then I'm going at the end of my clip and maybe give it 4% of increment. So I go to 54. And I'm gonna play my timeline from scratch once again. And as you can see, everything is scaling up together. But the trees gives me this change of perspective. Now this is a tip when you scale up the background, so your layer on the first track, make sure you don't scale it up of the same amount of the objects in the foreground. Otherwise the two layers will move exactly of the same amount and you'll not see any difference in terms of perspective. So make sure that when you add some scale, you're going to actually change the value between the foreground and the background layer. And that will create the parallax effect we just talked about. Very simple. Also, what you can do is to frame your clip better. So I'm gonna move the character up. And that's as simple as that. Now we're gonna work quickly on the second clip, put them together. I'm gonna take the first clip with the tree, take it on the V2 this time, and I'm already putting the second clip on the timeline as well on V1. Now we're gonna change the scale of both of them. So we go to the Effect Controls, 50, same here. And what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna speed this process up, is to mask out the tree on the right hand side. So I will catch up with you in a second. And this is my mask for the second tree. I just blended out the background image and there it is once again. So what I can do now is to take the part when I'm coming in, there. So I'm gonna crop all this part of the clip I don't need on the sequence, and I'm just gonna play it and see what's happening here. Great, so once again, make sure you add some details in your mask here, so you won't see the difference between the foreground and the background, but it works very nicely for me. And what we wanted to do with this clip was actually a tracking reveal shot. So we're gonna make the tree move to the side. I'm going at the beginning of my clip, select the foreground, the tree, so the very first layer here on track 2, and I'm going to position and create a keyframe. Now I'm going at the end of the sequence, go back one frame, and I'm going to slide the tree towards the right, like the camera was actually moving to the left instead. So I'm just dragging the position right there, and I'm gonna test it out by playing from the beginning. So we're gonna add some motion to the background, so to your character. Go to track 1, in the effect controls panel, go to position and create a new keyframe. And now we're gonna move to the opposite side. So I'm going at the end of the clip and move the frame here. And we're gonna separate the foreground from the background. Let's play from the start of the clip, the second clip. Now you can really see the parallax effect that we created. Bear in mind, you can also change the scale of your clip so you won't see the difference. And if you want to make yourself a bit bigger, you can. Something like this. And now this is the final result with some sound effects, music, and color correction. Very simple, but very effective in my opinion. So if you are a self-shooter, once again, you want to film yourself, this is a very good trick to do so. So now you're ready to incorporate these 2 clips inside your final video or final vlog. I hope the tutorial was helpful and that you enjoyed as much as I did, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and follow me also on Instagram, where I'm going to post more giveaways and tutorials as well. I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.
Seems all good times come and go your way. Child memories fall under rolling.